Hey guys, today's question is special array 2. In this question, we are given with the integer array nums and a 2D array queries where every element is of size 2, which is from I and to I in the query subarray. And we have to return an boolean array answer such that answer I is true if the current queries from I to 2I, this subarray is special. Now, what is a special array? An array is considered special if every pair of its adjacent element contains two numbers with different parity. What are the numbers with different parity? If the number is odd and the second number is even, then those have different parity. If both are even or both are odd, then both have same parity. Okay. For example, in this given array, 3, 4, 1, 2, 6. Now, the parity of 2 and 6 is same. Okay, only seeing adjacent elements. 1 and 2 is different, 4 and 1 is different, and 3 and 4 is also different because this is odd, this is even, this is even, this is odd, this is odd, this is even, but these two both are even. Okay, so the parity is not. Now if we can take query equals to 0, 4, which is the whole subarray. Okay, the array was special if all the elements have different parity of all the adjacent elements, but in this array we can see this pair of element 2 comma 6, this doesn't have different parity. Okay, because both are even. So in this condition, so for this query, for the first query in the queries, we return false. Now in example 2 we can see queries equals to 0, 2 and 2, 3. So for the 0, 2, okay, for the 0, 2 subarray is 4, 3, 1. Now we can see for 4, 3, 1, 3 and 1 both are odd. Okay, and these are adjacent elements, so all the elements doesn't have different parity. Now for the elements 2 comma 3, which is 1, 6, only this subarray, every pair have different parity because only one pair exists in this subarray, which is 1 comma 6, and 1 is odd, 6 is even. So in this case we return true. Okay, so we have to return the output for every element in the query. Okay, so we have to get boolean vector to return. Now what will be our approach? First let's take this example 2 here to continue with the approach. So if I want to check the number of parities, okay, for example, when I was given with the subarray 0 comma 2, if I somehow in a constant time or some less time like log n time, I can check the number of parities in between these array. Okay, number of different parities in between the subarray 0 comma 2. Okay, so I have to store the parities at the 0 and 2 index. Okay, and now if I want the number of different parities in this subarray, what I can simply do is, if I have prefix sum, okay, from the right side, so I can take all this subarray, the whole of the subarray, and number of parities in whole of the subarray, and now I can subtract this subarray. Okay, so for example, the queries was given as 0 and 2, so I wanted to get the number of different parities in this subarray. So what I did, as simply 3 is 4 minus 1. Okay, so I took all the subarray that starting from the query 0, and then the all of the subarray that start from n plus 1, okay, which is the index 3. Okay, so I subtracted this minus this, and then I got the answer. Okay, so that's the case. And now the subarray for the last element, for the every pair we will store the number of parity at the left index. Okay, so for this right index we will store parity 0, because for this whole subarray, what it is subtract the whole subarray minus 0, so this element will be 0 in the prefix sum. So now let's code to understand well. So our simple approach is like here I again described. For example, 4316, I will generate prefix sum from the right side. So initially the last element is 0. Now for this element we will check the parities of these two elements. So these two elements are different. So I incremented the counter, which was initially 0 and now is 1. Now after this 3 comma 1, okay, for 3 comma 1 the parity will be the last parity, which was the last parity, plus now these two elements, wait a second, these two elements, I here it should be 1. Okay, so these two elements have same parity, so no increment in the counter, and same value 1 will be here, which is the number of different parities in the whole the right part of the subarray. Okay, now another element comes 4 comma 3, and here the parities are different because this is even and this is odd, so we incremented one parity for this pair, and previous this parity was 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2, and now we have 2, which denotes the number of different parities in whole of the subarray. So every point, every index denotes the number of different parities in the right part of the array. Okay. So what if I want to check number of parities in this subarray? I will simply uh, check number of parities in this subarray, the whole subarray, and I will subtract by this. Okay, and every right side parity is stored in prefix sum. So I will simply, what I will simply do is I will, this index is 0 and this index is 1. So I will just simply subtract this value which is at the 0th index 2, which gives the all different parities in the right side 2 minus 1. Okay, so 2 minus 1 equals to 1, and 4 minus 3 also equals to 1. Sorry, 1 minus 0 also equals to 1. We don't need these numbers, only indexes. And 1 minus 0 also equals to 1. So if n minus start double equals to the value at the prefix array, value at the start of the prefix array minus value at the start of the end of the prefix array, then we can place uh, true in that for that query, otherwise we will place false for that query. Okay, so let's simply code for that. Initially we have to take the prefix array, so let's get the size for that first. So int n equals to nums of size, and now vector, let's take the prefix array named as, let's say, v. Okay, and n size, and initially element 0, so last element will obviously be 0, and now we can start from the last second element because we have wrote the last element as 0. So int I equals to n minus 2, which is the last second element, I greater than equals to 0, I minus minus. And now what we will simply do to check the parity of every pair, if I am currently standing at this value, I will check the modulus 2 of this value minus modulus 2 of this value, sorry, difference of my modulus. If the modulus 2 of this value is not equals to modulus 2 of this value, that means one of them is odd and one of them is even. Okay, if they are same, then we don't increment counter. So let's take the counter also, that will store how many different pairs we found in the right part of subarray, right part of the array till now. And now if nums of I modulus 2 is not equals to nums of I plus 1 modulus 2, that means both elements have different parity, one of them is odd, one of them is even, so we simply increment counter. Okay, otherwise at every step we will also store the value of counter, vi equals to cnt, and now take a boolean vector, boolean array to return as answer. Let's name it as answer, and now we will iterate over the queries and store the and push the result in for every element in the query. Okay, in the answer array. So for auto index in queries, first we will take start and s. Start will be x of 0 and end will be x of 1. Now as I said before, by this prefix array we can directly in the constant time check how many different queries are there, and if a array is considered special only if all the elements have different parity. So if start minus end double equals to prefix of start minus prefix of end. Okay, so in that case you have to go true. So if v of start minus v of end, which tells the number of different parities in that particular subarray, double equals to end minus start. Okay, this condition will tell the subarray, the given subarray of the which is from start to end is special or not. Okay, so if this condition holds, that means the array is special because all the elements have different parities. In that case we will push back true in the answer. Okay, otherwise in the else case we will push back false, of course. Push back false, and finally after the execution of this for loop we will simply return our answer. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, so the code, let's submit this. So the code is accepted. Thank you for watching.